Yes, thank you. Well, I'll take over there now, and should be pretty quick presentation here, just going over the highlights of what we discovered this last season, and why I'm extremely excited about the project. So we are dealing with a carbonate replacement type porphyry style project in BC, northwestern BC, and we are listed on the Canadian Securities Exchange in Frankfurt and also on the OTC.QB. Going to be making some forward-looking statements, as I have been throughout this presentation, and so far as the past has happened here, we've been producing results that we've been expecting, which is great to know. Look at the cap table here. We have 57 million shares outstanding, 16 million warrants, and the shareholders, management, and directors are about 36%. I think I'm the number one single shareholder. I own just over 5 million shares, which I've paid for myself, and it just shows how excited I am about this project. Our market cap today is about 15 million. Management team, we have a very young technical team that's very driven and great field people, and then we also have about 100 years combined experience in the management and investor marketing services area. So why become a shareholder of Core Assets? Right now, we have one of the largest and highest grade documented superficial expressions of any CRD project, and we have indications of a large porphyry stock nearby. I think there could be several porphyries on the property. We're located in the last unexplored area of BC's prolific Stikine terrain near Atlin, BC, and we have all the right geological ingredients to produce a world-class deposit. We're more accessible than a lot of our other projects to the south. In the Golden Triangle area, we have Atlin Lake, which gives us access to the property, easy to mobilize equipment and whatnot. It's only a 15-minute helicopter ride from Atlin. And we now own the whole district. Since 2 weeks ago, we own over 1,000 square kilometers of ground, any ground where there's receding glaciers from the Juneau ice sheet and anything on the border of Alaska. And what you guys have to look forward to in the next coming weeks and months is we have a lot of channel sampling results coming back. We have our high resolution geophysical survey and our petrography results. So lots of news flow into the new year. We got about 1.8 million in the bank right now, tight share structure. And like I said, we have a young technical team, and we're driven to discovery. One of the common themes right now is electrification of the world. So we hope with Core Assets to be able to help supply that demand. And we can do that through a polymetallic discovery, which is what we are onto. So again, we expanded our land package, and now it extends, if you can see my mouse there, all the way from the red star here, all the way up to the border of Alaska, and conceals everything down around that area. 15-minute helicopter flight, very quick to get there. It's workable most of the year, as long as you're on foot. And all the mining services are available in Atlin and also to Whitehorse and to the north. So I want to reintroduce the hub and spoke model. Everyone knows Bingham Canyon. It's one of the biggest porphyries in the world. It's been in production for over 300 years. And we have been following this model since 2018, working towards a discovery. The recent exploration success that we've had was on the Silver Lime Mantos, which is to the southwest of the original claim that we had back in 2018, that was the one that we listed with in 2019. So we're going to be focusing on what happened this year at the Silver Lime prospect. So we were successful. We discovered a very, very large manto that is actually visible at surface. There's 2 subparallel mantos, and it goes on for 500 plus meters, where it goes underneath snow, and it's 5 meters plus in width. And this is massive sulfide, and it's given us very, very respectable grades, like extremely high grade. And these are averages. So we had many samples that ran extremely high, or silver and zinc lead combined, and of course you got the copper in there as well. And this thing remains open both northwest, southeast, and obviously at depth. So the next one I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring you through some comparisons of what you expect to see with these types of deposits in world-class deposits in the world. How big, are these superficial expressions? So generally, they can range from nothing to around 100 meters of strike. So this is an example of the Nika deposit. It's in northern Mexico. This is a world-class zinc, lead, silver deposit. So you can see here, 75 meters was all that was superficially visible at the time of the discovery. And this was made in the early 1800s, and it was mined for about 100 years from, you can see on the right here on this cross section, down to about this level here. And then in 1950, it was finally drilled for the first time, and it was found that these mantos were stacked, and they increased big time, going down at depth up to 1 kilometer in depth. And this is a 45 million ton deposit, so absolute monster. And the take home here is that these mantos can be stacked, and what we're seeing at surface at the Grizzly showing is one of the largest superficial expressions that I've found for any of these deposits, basically globally. There's no shortage of these examples. This is another one here, Santa Eulalia, which is also in Mexico, which is in the prolific CRD belt, Mexican CRD belt. So back in the early 1800s, Spanish prospectors traversed down this valley, and they found, again, some superficial mineralization here, about 25 meters in width. And they mined that for about 50 years. And what turned in to be a 4 kilometer length of mineralization. And then later in the late 1900s, they found that these, again, mantos were stacked, and there was another 5 of them going down 1 kilometer into the earth. So the upside on these things is huge, and you can have these mantos stacked. So even though what we have at surface is significant, there could be multiple more down below. So we can prove that with drilling, of course. So back to the picture again here. This is 375 meters on our property, and again, it goes further to the northwest there, but it's cut off. And it's very, very large superficial mineralization. And then also we have this alteration halo that's around it, altered volcanic rocks. And there's also a huge skarn system that's just off the picture here as well, that goes on for about 250 meters, which again is one of those boxes you want to check for these deposits, especially if you're going to be vectoring back to a porphyry. So this is our hub and spoke model that we've defined at the Silver Line. This was all work completed this year. We've successfully defined 2 brand new mantos at the Grizzly zone, which are very substantial in length and very high grade, as you can see here to the left. And again, these samples are averages, and all samples were included in the arithmetic. This was a manto that was discovered back in the 80s, and it was thought to be a vein back in the time, but since then the CRD model has been developed, and we now know that this is actually a replacement texture, not a vein. So it should be continuous all the way back to the source. These little dotted lines here are basically inferred CRM, which is carbonate replacement mineralization channels. So as the model states, if you can find the mineralization at surface, it should get wider, thicker, and higher grade as it gets back to the source. So 6.6 kilometers right now of actual massive sulfide mineralization that we've not just alteration, but actual massive sulfide, and 1.8 kilometers in width. And it's being conservative really on that. So this is the model that distinctly guided the discovery of all 4 of these world-class deposits. The most recent one being the Taylor deposit, which was bought by South 32 in 2018 for $1.3 billion US. And basically, the way the model works is you have an intrusive stock. This could be your porphyry, which could be copper and molybdenum rich, or it could be barren. And then you get a skarn, which is a halo around this intrusive stock, and it is altered, and generally it's calc-silicate minerals, rich calc-silicate. And then you can also get high-grade mineralization within this, which we have at surface. And then sprouting out from that, you can get chimneys and mantos. So chimneys are vertically oriented massive sulfide channels. We have about 150 of those identified now on the property. And then the mantos are more horizontal or sub-horizontal. And we have 3 of those now identified, and very substantial at surface, of course. The key things here are that, again, mineralization is always continuous back to the source. So once you can tap into it, if you're lucky enough to find it at surface, you should be able to drill it back to the source. And the other thing here is you need to have a favorable limestone bed. So the permeability and porosity is very, very important when it comes to this, and you want to have a lot of limestone. And it just so happens in our area, we have a 20-kilometer length of limestone bedding, which has been compressed over the years. So that's where you can get your stacked manto. So it was actually a lot longer than that until the compression event happened. And now we're left with 20 kilometers, which is a lot of limestone. So we have space to grow here for sure and produce something large. So again, why the blue property? Where we are on the Stikine terrain, which most of you are definitely familiar with, SK Creek, KSM, and Brucejack mines. Those are all world-class mines located here in BC. And we have the potential, obviously, for a large deposit. As I said, we have 20 kilometers of mapped carbonate units on the property, which is huge. And I believe that there's a lot more to the northwest that is being uncovered every year from the glacial retreation. And we have greater than 500 meters of continuous CRD mineralization at the Grizzly zone. And there's 2 of those subparallel. We have the massive land package, over 1,000 square kilometers now. We have no net smelter royalties on the ground. We have no option payments. So we're not forced to have to pay big amounts of money to anyone at all. And we have our new model that we've been using, which was developed in the 1990s, which was after the last exploration campaigns in the area. And that model is proven, of course, in many, many different instances. And of course, there's a lot of surge in mergers and acquisitions in the area in the last 2 years. So that's very good news for us. This is a regional map here showing Stikine terrain, and it's just outlining some of these projects that are world-class that are along this Stikine terrain. And one thing to note here is basically all of these different projects are located along major structural features, just like the blue property. The blue property is located on the Llewellyn Fault Zone, which is thought to be where the mineralization is getting mobilized from. And another thing that people don't look at in BC is the fact that Alaska and Yukon gold belt, called the Tintana gold belt, actually is after producing 50 million ounces of gold in the past 20 years. Not producing, but defined. And that belt just runs up through here. So the gold potential here on our newly staked ground is also very high. This is a quick little tutorial on what a carbonate replacement deposit is. As the name suggests, it's hosted in carbonate, which could be limestone or dolomite. They are dominated by replacement. So the ore or the massive sulfide is actually replacing the base, which would be the limestone. These are very high temperature deposits, greater than 250 degrees Celsius. So that separates you from your Mississippi Valley type or your Irish type, your VMS deposits, which are they're smaller deposits compared to what we're looking for here. They're epigenetic, so the mineralization postdates deformation generally in the area, dominated by sulfide. So you're getting massive sulfide, you're getting your sphalerite and your galena, pyrrhotite, pyrite. And these are intrusion related. That would be your porphyry side of things. Polymetallic, silver, lead, zinc, copper, gold. And there's other suite of elements also that can be involved, like tin. And this, again, mineralization is continuous to the source. CRDs they're huge. They can be 10 to 150 million tons. One of the largest ones that we already spoke about would be the Taylor deposit, which is over 150 million tons deposit. And it's also related to the porphyry. And that's not included in this tonnage. The porphyry side isn't. And Core Assets, of course, owns the whole district. So we have the potential for not only the CRD aspect, but the upside and the mine life of a porphyry. So you're looking at extremely high grade in the CRD aspect, 150 to 1,500 grams per ton silver, a zinc and lead component, 3 to 25%. You're getting great copper numbers, 0.2 to 5%, as we've proven in our last exploration campaign. And then, of course, the other elements that you can get in the geochemical mix. They're also very low mining costs, generally underground until you run into the porphyry. And they are metallurgically understood, minimal environmental footprint, and again, opportunity to be related to other types of deposits like skarns and porphyries. We're going to go back in time a little bit here to some of the things that brought us to the property in the first place. And it was always a porphyry model that we were looking at. So there are some drill holes on the northeast side of the property. So we were working down into the southwest, which is about 10 to 15 kilometers away this year. But the initial programs were up in the northwest. So, you're getting some really good numbers here. Obviously, in the skarn, you're going to get higher copper numbers, but in the granodiorite itself, from surface, you're getting 0.27 copper from 0 to 175 meters. And then it also gets higher grade at the end of the hole. And so that's another area we're going to go back in and take a look at in the next season here. This is down to the Silver Line prospect. So this is just east of where the Grizzly Manto was discovered this year. And basically the plan was that we compiled some historical data to the east. It was about 2.5 kilometers to the east, where they were looking for vein style, zinc, lead, and silver, gold. And basically there was a EM survey that was done. It was a 12.5 meter spacing. And it indicated to us that there was an anomaly that was running to the northwest, and it went off of the map sheet, of course. So the plan this year was to go off of the map sheet and explore these next valleys. And right away, bingo, we found what we were looking for. And of course, as the model states, these are not veins, these are mantos, and they are continuous. And we think they are continuous back to the source, which is to the northwest. Another cool tool we're using on the property is UV light, ultraviolet light. Yeah, you can use this to vector towards the mineralization. And basically, what happens is you can get unmineralized rock with calcite generally that has spent ore fluid in it. So it means that some ore went through it at one point. If it lights up, the richer the color is, they call it barbecue rock. The more red it is or orange, is the closer you are to the source. So not just our calcite near our carbonate replacement mineralization, but also our granodiorites and all of our felsic units, volcanic units in the area are also lighting up with this barbecue rock. On the right here, this is core from Mag Silver's Deer Trail project in Utah, and they're using UV light to vector towards a source. This limestone is actually not mineralized, but it did have mineralization running through it at one time. And this was done in this core was drilled years ago, and they acquired it, I think, from another company. And then this year they actually continued to drill, and they did find the mineralization. So one of the things that we need to do next is we need to try to bridge gaps here and find out how the continuum of the mineralization is working, and how do we find our way to the porphyry or vice versa back to the mantos. So we pretty much got the mantos nailed down right now, and we're seeing, obviously high grade zinc, high grade copper, and we're seeing copper and molybdenum on the property as well. So we actually have a little bit of everything there. The reason the gaps are not closed in is because we're going to need to drill next to try to bridge these gaps and hopefully turn this into something comparable to the Sunnyside Taylor, which has both the porphyry side and the high grade mantos, which would be the best thing we could find for sure. So back to a checklist that I've showed in previous presentations, but this is a checklist that a major company would use if they want to determine if they want to spend money on a project early on. So the only boxes you really need to tick are the first three. So you want to be on a known porphyry CRD belt. Obviously we are, of course, and it's Stikine terrain. You want to be in the top of a carbonate section. So you need to have a lot of limestone, a lot of room to grow. We check that box. And then you want to find these Hollywood numbers of silver, and that gets you out of the realm of the MVT, the VMS, the Irish type deposits, which are generally smaller, lower grade. And we go way above 400 grams per ton on many of our samples. The rest of the boxes down here aren't even that important. Generally, they don't all get ticked by some of these major deposits, but we do have evidence that we can check all 13 boxes, which is pretty phenomenal for about $1 million that we've spent on the property so far. Major companies sometimes spend 20 million plus just to get a few of these boxes checked. So we're doing pretty well on that side. So just to clue up here, some of the catalysts, including the things that I said at the beginning, but we have a huge area right now. It's 1,000 kilometers squared of land, and now we've broken it down to a priority area of 6.6 by 1.8 kilometers, and this is not just altered, but mineralized area. So quite substantial to have that in a new area. Very hard to come by these days to make new discoveries like this where no one else has been, and it's all thanks to the receding glaciers. We got a lot of news coming out here in the next coming months. We got our channel sampling results, petrography, VTEM, airborne survey, which will really show us where this porphyry is and give us a really good idea of how our hub and spoke model is panning out. And lots of cash in the bank at the moment, and it's owned greater than 35% owned by insiders. And we got a young team backed by great market experience. So I think we're well on our way to success here. Well, thanks for having me. If anybody has any questions or had questions, I can answer them. And if not, you can contact me afterwards, and I'd be happy to talk.